I'm back at it again with another movie review. Here we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the 31st film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the start of Phase 5. Here we go. What's the story? The Ant family consisting of Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and Cassie Lang, now recasted, which I'll get to more later, end up getting trapped in the quantum realm, which is only briefly explored in previous installments, where they have to find a way to get out and also have it to deal with a sinister and mysterious force that threatens the entire multiverse. As what I thought about it, it was fun. Personally not my favorite of the Ant-Man films, but it's enjoyable. Like I said, it's fun. It has its problems, noticeable problems, but at least myself and the audience were having a good time for like the short 2 hours that it was. Well, to continue into more detail, Ant-Man was always one of my favorite MCU leads, and that first movie was actually, really enjoyed back when it came out. Like, holy moly, it's been almost 8 years. I still remember that very day. The day where a bunch of ants got trapped in one of my family's cars. What a coincidence. I also remember being freaked out over that Civil War tease at the end. But anyway, back to this. It's one of my favorite Phase 2 movies, and it's stuck with me ever since because it's simple but very effective with memorable characters and heart and creativity and a bunch of weirdness and relatability that made it stand out from Marvel, what Marvel was doing at the end. So I was just happy to continue on with Civil War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Endgame, which I'm glad that they gave him a good role there, and now back here. So I'm happy to see him again. But anyway, to compare, I know that there's been lots of talk on what this movie stands and what Marvel's been doing right now. I'll go into more depth, but I'll say this. I enjoyed this more than Thor: Love and Thunder, but with Multiverse of Madness, I'm not sure yet. Because I haven't finished rewatching it, so I had to give it some time before I decide how to compare these quote-unquote underwhelming Marvel movies. But to move on to positives, for sure, this movie has a lot of imagination. Like, holy moly, like the quantum realm just looks gorgeous. Like every section of it, like the designs of the world, the character designs. There's some human people, which I'm not sure how it works yet. Like they said it was sort of human, but they didn't explain that much on what they actually are. But anyway, there's these weird and colorful creatures and aliens and robots that were just fun to look at. And I feel like by default is the most imaginative Marvel project visually since Loki, and they both involve the multiverse sort of. So I can at least appreciate how much they went into the design and the world and just the sets and the environment. So that was wonderful to look at and just very creative. And as usual, there's a lot of great chemistry with the cast. I think they've really grown into a sort of family with how long these actors have been portraying these characters. And actually with the recasting of Cassie Lang, which I think now that she's been recasted twice, she does have Catherine Newton does have playful chemistry with Paul Rudd, but even though I felt the older actors they had for Endgame did a good job emotionally, and actually could buy her as the biological daughter of Paul Rudd, but here not so much. But at least I kind of felt like a connection, even though it still would sometimes distract me how much she doesn't look like him. Also, funny enough, with people will say about everyone has their own desires of what they want a Marvel movie or show to do or to be, but at least this advances the saga, which many have been begging for a while. So here we go. Funny enough, this movie advances the saga more than Multiverse of Madness. Who would have thought? And now one of the biggest positives that's got almost universal praise from everyone, Kang. My God, he is scary. So scary. Every time he was on screen, I felt like the audience went silent. Because holy moly, Jonathan Majors, I know it's not his first appearance, as he was in the season finale of Loki. Well, it was a variant of him, but I guess now we see like an actual Kang the Conqueror, and Jesus frick, it was like, you can't take your eyes off him, you can't take your ears off him. Like, it's like you're listening to every word and action he does, thinking he's gonna do something horrifying that's gonna scar the audience. So I give a lot of praise to the performance and the writing of him, and his motivations and what he plans to do and unleash. I'm not gonna go into. It's a lot. Not even the spoiler segments. I'll only say a bit of what he's planning to do, because I feel it's better to witness it personally. But holy moly, he leaves one hell of an impression. But then I can get to some of like the spoiler-free negatives. Like I guess this is a sort of negative, but not really a negative, but something just to mention. But Hope Van Dyne doesn't really have that much of she doesn't have an arc here. But before the movie came out, I kind of saw it coming, because like there's not much else to do with this character. Because I feel like they could have done everything story-wise with the first two Ant-Man films, with her getting her complete family back. And sure, like I guess in this one she trusts her mother more, because she's been keeping a lot of secrets. But mostly she's been like cool support. But yeah, the heart of these movies was mostly about Scott Cassie, which is, I guess, a good idea to focus on, since that's what jump-started this whole trilogy. And I say it continues well. It doesn't end strong, but it continues well. And also, to be honest, I never bought her and Scott as lovers. Like, this entire time, they gave off like platonic partners vibes rather than lovers, because they have chemistry, but not that kind of chemistry. So that was something. But at least I don't want the character to disappear, despite what people have been saying about the actors. But yeah, she doesn't. Well, I don't think there's not much room to grow, pun intended. Also, another a negative I think is gonna persist in just about everything that comes out. So I guess at this point there's no reason to repeat it, but as usual, there'll be some bits of humor that either don't need to be in there, or just don't work. And yeah, there's been very few MCU installments without this problem, and I feel like it happens in almost every of them, that there'll be a few jokes that aren't needed, but felt a little bit forced in. And yeah, this tone works best with like the Ant-Man franchise, and I know this is like by default the most serious of the trilogy. But yeah, it's another issue I don't think is gonna go away unless they really try hard to avoid it. But yeah, it's funny. It's a funny, enduring movie, but there's still some unnecessary humor that kind of drags on the pacing. Also, an issue which isn't as exaggerated as people tend for it to say, but I guess I can kind of see here. The visuals are kind of hit or miss. Like, there'll be some gorgeous scenery with the whole world and like the effects. But then there'll be sometimes where it looks like the background looks very stilted and flat, and it's easy to notice. Even in a big screen, it's very noticeable. Would just take me out of it, and a lot too, just like how people are reacting. But it's not. At least I don't know what to say about it. It just happens. I'm not sure what you can do about it. The movie's already out. So yeah, they could have fixed the issues like they've done with it. What should have done with many other times, but at least sometimes it looks really good, especially when it's all CG. Also, the other big issue is the pacing, especially for the first half, is very messy. Because to be honest, this is a sort of spoiler, but it's more of a structure spoiler than a story spoiler. But the gang goes to the quantum realm surprisingly fast. Like, I think not even 15 minutes in or 20 minutes in, and they're already trapped in there. I was like, I wish we could have spent more time in the real world, a bit more, before going down there. But I guess, we're doing this already? Wow. And also, when they kept jumping back and forth between the two groups, between Scott Cassie and Hope, Hank, and Janet, it was like, I was kind of getting scared there for a bit. I was like, if the whole movie's going to be like this, and I think it's going to suck. But luckily, by halfway, once Kang enters, then the movie becomes more focused and more interesting and dramatic and memorable. So I'm glad that they managed to fix those issues halfway, even though it should have been like clean the whole way through. And at least the first half, there's some setups that end up with a cool payoffs at the end. But I feel like even with the second half elevating the movie, I don't think that first half in terms of pacing is gonna age well. Could have been great, but at least like it made it enjoyable. Because to be honest, like I still say that first Ant-Man is my favorite just because like it's simple but effective. I enjoyed this a bit more than Ant-Man and the Wasp because that one wasn't as messy as this one, but at least it was also simple because the second one didn't have that much of an impact because it kind of feel like a TV episode stretched onto a whole movie, especially with the cop-out ending, which I'll reference later today. But yeah, this one felt more impactful. I'll talk about the stakes later. But yeah, it's a messy issue that could have been fixed. And also, I guess this isn't just something to notice, but the village people that they meet in the quantum realm, I guess the major characters that they introduce is like there's a weird goo creature called Zeb, that warrior lady whose name I can't remember, Class, played by William Jackson Harper. I don't think they ever say his name, and that weird robotic yellow laser man. At first I thought they were just okay and a little boring, but later on, by the climax, they became passable. I feel like depending on how the future holds, maybe we might see them again, so who knows. And also, about the action, it's alright. Like, again, like they focus a lot on CGI and okay choreography and a bunch of weird cuts. And I think the only standout action is what happens in the third act. But even then, it's alright. Like it gets a bit more, I guess, emotionally heavy by the end. But overall, it's not really a standout in terms of the action department. But I guess that is to be expected. And yeah, that's not really a problem that I say things are to be expected. It is what it is. Anyway, now to move on to the spoiler section. I'm gonna give it a few seconds. Okay, there's a bunch of criticisms over this, but I'm only gonna mention a couple because this is my review. I can talk about what I felt. The ending was a little predictable, considering like how like it ends in a rebellion, and it takes like a simple pep talk to get the whole world motivated. And there's dumber stuff that happens, but yeah, it was a little predictable. But at least as I was having a fun time, it didn't like affect me a bunch. And also the other thing, like I know this advances the MCU monumentally, but then those people saying that they didn't have enough stakes because no one major died aside from Yellow Laser Man. Rest in peace, Laser Man. We hardly knew ye. But I feel like that's not really a problem because I feel like here's the thing about like deaths. No one has mentioned this, but Marvel has never killed off an important character during a solo movie. Ever. The big exception is T'Challa, and we all know why, so no one has better make any excuses. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. All your brothers and sisters in spirit will miss you. But as the people have noticed, like, all the major characters that died permanently or died but came back all happened in Avengers movies. Like, think about it. Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Loki, Gamora, Vision, and I guess to an extent Quicksilver, but not really. They've all died in the major crossover films. Like no one has died in the solo movies. Like people thought Wong was gonna die in Multiverse of Madness, didn't happen. People thought Thor was gonna die in Love and Thunder, didn't happen. People thought Ant-Man or Hank Pym was gonna die in this one, didn't happen. I guess the Hank Pym one was possible because there's a bunch of mentors dying recently with No Way Home and Wakanda Forever. But yeah, like it's just a thing. They're just not gonna kill off any of their major characters in these solo movies. They're gonna save the major deaths for the crossovers. So yeah, like it's just also because like the family made it back home fine doesn't mean like it doesn't mean anything because, like I said, just like that ending in the post-credit scene suggested, there is going to be an impact. Just because it's not felt here, at least it sets it up for later, which is what people wanted. Set up and hopefully a good payoff. But now one of the bigger criticisms that I can agree with, MODOK. I know people have been begging for him to appear in the MCU for a long time, but him being one of the most popular MCU villains that haven't been put in the movie yet, and he's here, and he was kind of a letdown. Because when I heard, and it just gave it away in the second trailer, that he was going to be Darren Cross, the villain of the first Ant-Man movie, but back as like this hideous creature. I kind of knew it was gonna make sense. Like it makes sense considering the franchise, but what he actually is, it doesn't work. And when I was watching at first, I didn't mind it, but then the more I thought about it, the more I thought it just did not work at all. Like, well, yeah, it didn't really work. And also that whole dumb thing of him like suddenly becoming a good guy at the end because Cassie gave her a pep talk. Because what's with the thing with these characters in previous movies, like easily winning a fight with just a pep talk, which is ridiculous. Like it felt like there was no need for MODOK to even be in this movie because he doesn't really like impact the plot or the emotion that much, and also he was always treated as a joke within the movie. Like Caswell always making fun of him. He has this freaky but not in a good way design, which I could not take him seriously, and I'm sure other people couldn't. So it was a shame that they kind of like misused him. They could have like either put him in another movie where he was actually important to the story, like have him be the main villain, actually make him MODOK, like a created monster instead of like someone else. Not sure there's any chances for how they can use him properly because he got killed off at the end. But it happened, and I didn't agree with it. And also, what's the point of casting Bill Murray as Krylar? Like, he's a talented guy, but he was in like a one scene. He doesn't even die, I think, but what's the point of casting him? Like, my audience, it sure got a reaction from the audience, but what's the point? Like, they could have casted any smaller actor to play him, but they got Bill Murray for that little. That was odd. And also, I'm surprised they didn't like. There was a bunch of side characters in the first movies that don't even make appearances here, for the exception of Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man and the Wasp and WandaVision, who makes like a brief 5-second cameo. So it's funny they couldn't get the other guys, like they couldn't get Luis, Kurt, or Dave, or not even like Cassie's parents. They get referenced, but they don't appear. I'm surprised that they couldn't get just Luis for a cameo, because they got like David Desmonchion, who played Kurt, to voice Zeb the creature for some reason. Yeah, the goo creature, but they couldn't get anyone else, not even Luis. So that was a bit odd, but it is what it is. And also the other thing which I can agree with a lot of people with is that Kang definitely elevates the story. Because yeah, he makes everything like at least work and watchable. But because I feel like if none of the Kang stuff was in this movie, then I feel this could have just ended like an average, forgettable Marvel movie. But because he's in it, he makes it at least interesting to watch. But at least I can, not sure who to praise there, but it is what it is, because I say also by default he is the Ant-Man franchise's best villain. Because yeah, I thought Yellow Jacket in the first one was kind of boring. What's his name? Sonny Birch, I believe, in the second one, like he was a little fun, but kind of like just a whatever villain, like very pastiche, and I don't think it's gonna mean much unless they finally do that benefactor payoff at the end. I can't believe they never brought that back up. Also, Ghost, I did kind of like her. She's not a boring villain, but she's not that special, because at least I understood her motivation and has some cool powers. But I think she's a good villain, but not a great one. And at least I'm glad they're going to bring her back for Thunderbolts. Hopefully they give some character development there. So I guess by having Kang being just so terrifying and impressive and creative and just crazy, I guess kind of just makes him the best villain of the trilogy by default. Jesus Christ. Also, I guess if I were in charge of these movies, I would make the third one small scale, or obviously up the stakes more to make it impactful, but they just cranked it up to 11 with the whole multiverse possibly being in danger because of Kang. It was a choice. They went for it. They swung for the fences rather than like making another small movie. They just went crazy. But at least the one thing that I can say I can appreciate more from this than Multiverse of Madness and Love and Thunder is that everyone except MODOK stay in character. Like, sure, I guess MODOK will turn into a crazy buffoon. It's supposed to be scary, but kind of a joke. But yeah, everyone else, they're in character. Like, no one is written out of character for the sake of, like, to make them dumb for the sake of comedy or forced drama or for plot convenience. They're all who they are. And I guess Cassie's the most changed. It makes sense because, like, she's been through a lot. With her losing her dad for 5 years, thinking he was dead. She's a fun character. And I guess this kind of counts as, like, her superhero origin story. I think they didn't give her a superhero name because in the comics, she's usually called like Stature or Stinger. I think we might go with the latter. But at least I enjoyed her presence, and I know obviously she's I think the fourth time this character appeared, but almost feels like a new beginning of like her superhero life, where she really comes into her own. So I hope to see her in a team later in the future, whether it's like Young Avengers, Main Avengers, or whatever else they come up with. I'll be happy to see this version of Cassie appear more. And I guess now I can like talk about like the post-credit scenes because they were both quite good. And I guess one of the better I thought the Wakanda Forever post-credit scene was very emotional. But I guess this is a different type since this one actually sets up the future. Because the first one, I believe, sets up Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, because at least this movie can finally give us an idea on what might happen in that next Avengers 2-parter, which is like a bunch of Kang variants, which I guess include like Rama Tut, Scarlet Centurion, and another guy whose name I can't remember, but I know they all come from the comics, bringing in a whole army of Kangs to this space coliseum. And they're ready to cause chaos towards the multiverse, which is like, holy moly, what a mind blowing thing! Like, who would have thought that we would ever see this in live action? Like an army of Kangs putting the entire multiverse in danger. Holy shit! I'm curious. Hopefully we didn't leave it all the way to Avengers to see more of this possibility. I want us to give another glimpse of them targeting the Avengers themselves and say, it is time. We are going to murder every single hero of this entire universe just to make it an even bigger threat. But now to the second post-credit scenes that, for the first time in a while, foreshadows an installment we actually know is coming. In this case, end up showing none other than Loki and Mobius too, which foreshadows Loki season 2, where they're trying to look for another Kang variant called Victor Timely. Not sure, maybe this might be a scene from the show, but it was glad to actually have another like cameo post-credit scene from an existing character. I don't think we've had this since like Shang-Chi, or no, actually something like Miss Marvel, I believe. It's been a while, but yeah, I guess an actual post-credit scene that foreshadows something we know is coming out. That was my audience was very happy and excited and hyped up, so I'm glad for this to happen. Can't wait to see what they do there. Cause also, like, yeah, sure, this advances the saga, but I guess people don't have to worry about there being too much multiverse content because Loki season 2 is the only multiverse project coming out this year. About next year, we'll see how it goes. And the thing I wonder now is, did the family ever take that spherical power source, and that time chair with them? Because if not, also I did like, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I really liked that one action scene that involved that whole army of ant-men. That was awesome and creative and funny. But yeah, like, I predict that Kang that they defeated in the climax is not dead. Because like I said, we learned from fiction, if they don't show the body, then they're not dead. Because all the things like he got shrunk and got sucked into that power core or something. But I don't think he's dead. I feel he's gonna escape that thing, and he might either find a way himself by somehow, some way that he can escape the quantum realm and then build a brand new, more powerful army, and also get some new abilities and technology. Because I know, like, he's from what Loki has mentioned, he is from 1,000 years from the future, and even then, he's one of the smartest people in the universe. So I guess that makes him a bigger threat than just another genius. So I feel he could find a way to escape the quantum realm early on in the next Avengers film, which would cause a whole war of Kangs. Because I don't think they ever mentioned that. Like, they didn't take those things with them, did they? Because if they stayed there, then the multiverse is doomed. Well, that's all I can say with this. I don't think there is as much else to say, since I wasn't as passionate for this as like Spider-Man No Way Home or Wakanda Forever. But at least I had a good time for what it was, because I like the Ant-Man films. They're fun, and yeah, they're very wild and wacky and goofy, but I'm glad that at least they kept some of that rather than having a bleak, serious movie, which I feel would not work. I'm glad they took some chances, even if some of them didn't work out. At least I get another fun 2 hours, and who knows, I might rewatch it to maybe see how it really is. Because for now, they said things always change, but I might give it like an 81. Yeah, I'm 81 out of 100. Fun, flawed, but at least I feel it has more going for it than like other flawed MCU installments, in my opinion. Like as usual, I'm gonna ignore a lot of the hate because I feel there's no point in giving too much attention to it. But at least I had a fun time here. It's a bit too exaggerated. Well, hopefully I'll end it here, and hopefully there'll be a time where we feel, and I myself feel, the Quantumania. See you on the next one.